Guys, Millennial Alien here on giving you some advice. And my advice is pretty particular, but you can translate it into something more general. My advice to you is to do a year sober. Commit to a year sober with no alcohol or cannabis or cigarettes or caffeine or whatever being sober means to you. Now, how you translate that into something more general is commit to something for a year. Or even just commit to something for a period of time with no exceptions, whether that be a week, 30 days, 21 days, 2 months, every weekend for a month, etc. Now, I chose to advise you to go a year sober because I just finished a year sober that I committed to, last July 26th. I made a jot of notes outlining my reasons because there were so many reasons, and I know that if I started talking about it, I would be here for, I've already talked inclusively over the year for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours on the topic. So I tried to refine it into a few notes. I'm going to read them out for you guys. So, being sober for a year, especially in Canada, because we experience the seasons at such a honest capacity, realigns you with the earth. We are all animals. We are all primitive beings in our roots, and to realign ourselves with the cycle of the planet around the sun does something to our core being that can't, I'm sure psychology is starting to catch up, but it's something so deep and so subconscious as well that is quite inexplicable. We could go into the science behind it, the psychology behind it, the biology behind it, but to experience something for a year is remarkable. It strengthens the willpower, which subconsciously creates a sense of self-worth, and which will aid you in executing willpower in other areas of your life. Helps with drive and task completion and self-mastery as a whole. Being sober provides clarity because of less distractions going on. You're able to pay more attention to your emotions regarding certain social situations, for example, and what your authentic response is to something. Furthermore, on that, I found that I was a lot more analytical of my emotions. I am a very in the moment sort of person. I do tend to focus a lot on the future. I'm future oriented, but I can balance that with being extremely impulsive, and whether that be considered present or not, it's just kind of go, and not really think about consequences or where those things stem from, those actions, those beliefs, those patterns stem from. So being sober for me actually created an automatic analytical response to just the way I was being and the way I was interacting with the world. Sobriety builds on itself. Unlike a lot of drugs, sobriety, abstinence, actually becomes stronger. You feel more comfortable within the self, more comfortable voicing your opinions, more comfortable taking responsibility for what you're doing, and being unapologetically yourself. You're also able to more fully reflect on what is intrinsically hurtful. And I say that in relation to being unapologetically yourself, because to do something that hurts someone else may not be intrinsically hurtful. They could be being easily offended or what have you. But when you're sober and you're analytical and you're starting to automatically and more readily and more enthusiastically just analyze what is going on, because of this self-improvement, growth-oriented mindset, you find yourself in positions of being more aligned with what you're doing in its relation to your core values, and not really so readily tolerating divergences away from your core self, your purpose, your being. Your values come into clear focus. That was my next point. I kind of already just talked about that. One of my values that did come into focus was my, I knew I liked to analyze and think about things, but what came into more clear focus is that I actually want to think more properly about these things and not overthink them, quote unquote. Some people argue that you can't overthink things, you can just think about things incorrectly, and this becomes a much larger philosophical discussion. But my values were reinstated, realigned, absolutely altered. A lot of my opinions really changed about certain topics over the year. And I do attribute that to an amalgamation of everything. Like always, everything's an amalgam of everything, but of course, something constant throughout the last year was my sobriety. You have a lot more energy. Your mental health improves, your skin clears up, you save money, you can be the DD for yourself, you always have a ride home, you're never stuck anywhere. You don't have hangovers, your liver loves you, like you have all of those like physical responses to like not ingesting that toxin that is alcohol or whatever other substance you are consuming is. You also sleep better. These are just like a small little like beauties that come with it, but then you can talk even better about like what you can talk more about each one of the points I'm making. You can dive into what does sleeping better do for you, what does your skin being improved do for you. It helps self-worth. Sleeping better will align you with your internal clock, which will make you healthier, and because of A, B, and C, you know. You're valued by others. Now this is an important one because it seems like we like the media and like the self-improvement industry is like, you know, don't care what other people think and blah blah blah. But being valued by others allows you to have a positive effect or potential to have a positive effect on other people. Many people, it's starting to rain and I thought I was covered, but it's kind of raining on me. Many people were inspired to do something similar to what I did, and they cut down or they committed to a certain amount of time or an X amount of weekends, and that feeds into the whole self-mastery concept of like challenging yourself to do something because you can, and because that in itself is intrinsically beneficial. Higher sex drive. That could be a pro or a con, but I realized about a month into getting sober that my libido was completely spiked, because it's a high in and of itself to engage with your own sexual nature. So I looked at that as a pro. However, with everything, you must be conscious and make healthy decisions for yourself and others around those increases in certain energies. Going back to the willpower, I made a note here about willpower is what separates being human from any other animal. We have like the capacity to make conscious decisions, and those are long-term decisions, and it's the age-old discussion of the long-term satisfaction versus instant gratification. And you really can't know what it feels like until you try it. Like until you are living the consequence of making a long-term decision for yourself. Like I can talk about all I want, and it can evoke a feeling, it can evoke an inspire thought, but to live it is something completely different, because like I said, it builds on itself. And your memory strengthens. Did I mention that around like the skin clearing, the sleeping better? Your memory strengthens, and you're not blacking out and not remembering like little specific circumstances of the night before. Your social interactions become deeper and more authentic, because when you're involving yourself, I mean, small talk can happen soberly too, and you can uninvest yourself, but it becomes a lot more clear what situations and what people and what types of people and what kind of conversations you want to involve yourself in, given the mood you're in or given all the circumstances at hand. But you become a lot more intolerant to faking it in general. You know what I mean? You feel increasingly comfortable being yourself. And I related that back to recognizing your values that I talked about earlier. Recognizing your strengths, recognizing your values, and being unapologetically yourself. Because it's a subconscious build. Like I said, it builds on itself. Your subconscious is doing all this work, and all of this value you're placing yourself and your self-worth and your sense of strength allows you to be unapologetically yourself and feel more comfortable expressing that openly in various situations. I learned a lot about my emotional triggers because I was a lot more conscious and present a lot of the time. I was consciously and subconsciously more aware of like what was setting me off, when I was spiraling, when my mood was being elevated, and why those things were happening. And to that, I developed coping mechanisms that worked really well for me. Teaches you about the amazing and evolving and changing fruits of commitment. That's something that I don't really want to give too much of an explanation about, because it's something so magical that I actually experienced towards the last few months more fully as I committed to a monogamous relationship with my boyfriend. Because throughout my life I've battled with the concept of monogamy and its relationship to freedom and choice, and I simply made the connection. Again, it's an amalgam of everything, but the connection between like committing to something and committing to someone that you feel, and you feel here. Your heart will tell you if you feel it's right. Your brain will give you all the excuses to either do or not do, and it will fight with your heart. But the practice of commitment and the value of commitment really shone through this year for me, and I was able to express that onto a beautiful, loving relationship with someone who cares so deeply about me, and vice versa, and who's so healthily communicative with me. But that's not the point of this vlog. I can talk another time about my beautiful partner. The liver loves you, the skin loves you, your body loves you. Okay, we got that. And in the end, it's a brave thing. To exercise choice is a brave thing. To commit is a brave thing. To make such a seemingly valuable decision in that moment of saying, I'm going to commit to a whole year of something, or to whatever you're committing to. Commitment to a conscious choice that separates us from our animal instinct is brave. And you're able to, being sober, you're able to take responsibility for all the other brave things you do while being sober. Take full accountability and revel in that. So let me know what you think about this. I am super curious about the topic of sobriety, the topic of its relationship with sobriety's relationship with sexuality and commitment and will and value systems. So let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you think I'm a genius. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot, but please tell me why, because I want to grow and I want to continue to find out where my values lie, even in terms of like little micro values and little micro opinions that I value. So thanks for giving me a listen. This is Vanessa Rego of Millennial Alien. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Those are my go-to social media platforms. I love them. And let's get the conversations flowing. And please let me know if you want to commit to something like this, because I'm very interested in the concept of having effect on other people and vice versa. So if I had an effect on you in any capacity, again, let me know. Ciao. Much love.